Good morning, this is Larry. Hope everything's going your way. This is Philosophy of Education, and the topic today is Ontology, which means the study from logi of being, which is onto. These come from Greek and Latin terms. Those are the basis. All right, in an attempt to look at the study of being, or an attempt to look at existence and being, which they're about the same here, because we have to have existence before we have being. Being's got a little more specific term here. But anyway, I put it out this way. Now, many of the philosophers will put this in a hierarchy, these rocks, angel, and I think that came out of religion. First your lower levels, rocks, then you insects, and they got human up there pretty high. But I don't know, as I think about it, insects may outlast humans, so I'm not sure I want to put them on the bottom and us on the top. So I put it this way. So what are we talking about when we say existence or being? Well, I'll go this way. Okay, we have rocks in there someplace because we say, hey, they exist. Then we have insects, and I may be missing some categories here, but I've taken an overview, and I think I can cover most of them. Animals, humans, aliens, because that's a new concept. Now, let me stop at this point and say, well, these are ridiculous. We don't know if they exist. Well, as a teacher, I don't even have the authority to decide what exists and doesn't. Now, if I do, I tend to think I'm biased. So in order to maintain an objective view as a teacher who's trying to figure out how to help that learner, then I can't decide whether he exists or not. And I don't think I should. Now, you can if you want. But anyway, so I put angels, gods, and other, which I left open. I don't know what they might be. So as I take a look at those existing levels, I guess you could call it, or existing categories, or categories of existence maybe, then you say, well, not all of these seem to have the same characteristics. That's true, and we have to look at the characteristics of that being in order to try to help that being learn. So, I go over here to characteristics. Now, the first thing that came to my mind was, can you sense these things? That's one characteristic. That doesn't mean the one you can't sense, it can't be taught, but it just gives us a little better idea of the nature of that being. All right, rocks, sure, I can sense them. They can be sensed. Insects, animals, humans, aliens. Well, I don't know if I can sense them with my senses, but angels, gods. Now people say, well, yes, they're out there. And I have to respect the person who says, yeah, I talk to God. Well, okay, you know, we always, there seems to be a tendency, oh, he's goofy or he's crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But I want to stay away from that. So I can't sense them with my five senses. So I'll just leave that. All right, what's another characteristic of beings and humans and existing things? Alive. Do they seem to be alive? Well, no, this one doesn't seem to have life like we call it. He doesn't move, he doesn't. But insects are alive. We say, yeah. Animals, humans, aliens, well, they say they're out there, so I say, okay, maybe they're alive. Let me click that in there. Angels, well, what is, when you're talking about is alive? Now remember, we're just trying to get characteristics here, and we may not have a definite decision on whether that thing is alive or not, because we're not even sure how to define alive. So let me just leave that. Now, can you communicate with them? Because this will help us in teaching and learning if we can communicate. And then after that, you got to figure out, how do you communicate? Well, we can't communicate. Well, I guess you could communicate with a rock. You kick it, it moves. Well, did you communicate? Well, whatever you want to call it. Insects, yeah, you talk to them. I talk to the wasps. He seems to be happier if I talk to him. If I bat him, then he gets upset. Okay, animals, yeah, they talk to them. Humans, angels, people pray. They pray to gods. Now you can say, well, they're sitting there dreaming, but I'm not going to do that. I don't think that's my right. All right? Identifiable. Now, in order, the teacher says, well, there's the learner. I have to be able to identify it. Well, I've got some characteristics here, but do I feel like he's really there? I'm going to give all of these a check on this one, because, you know, I'm going to leave that open. But on the angels and gods, can I identify them? Well, they talk about this God, that God. You know, some of the cultures talk about different gods. We say there's a group, you know, the monotheist, one God. Well, that's one approach to gods, but other people say, oh, there's 33,000 million, I think the Indians say. But all right, so that's what we're trying to just understand, get a grasp on what that learner, what's something about him that I can figure out how to teach. So I go down here, well, what are the goals of these different categories? Well, they change. Oh wait, one was here. Exist. I erased that. They want to stay in existence. You never hear a rock want to go out of existence? You grind him up. But insects, they seem to, if they don't individually stay in existence, they breed to have others. So let's put these. Now, do aliens, you know, here we say, well, how can you talk about whether they want to stay in existence? I don't know. I'm not sure. Angels? Well, they talk about it. He's always there. Let me put a couple here. All right. And some of the other goals of them, they change. The rock changes to dust. The insects die and become dust. So this seems to be one of the goals of that species. And the human, he dies and changes, he's buried, and then he turns to dust, or you burn him and he's dusted already. So the idea of that's something that goes on there. So we have to say, oh yeah, I have to accept that. I don't know. They say the gods don't change. I don't know if aliens do or not. Okay, so I'm going to say, all right, these change. I don't know about him. And don't place too, you know. Now you say, oh, well, if I'm talking about existence, we don't know. Well, it's only because I don't know. Remember, this whole thing is made up by man. In this situation, I made this up. The philosophers make it up. It doesn't come from outside, even though you can say, well, no, I got a message from God. Mentally, we're the ones doing this. We put this all together and trying to make sense out of it. Some people say, well, all you're doing is categorizing it and making different labels. Well, yes, that's, I don't know how else we go about teaching and learning. Okay, multiply. Well, rocks don't seem to multiply. These do. Aliens, yeah, because they're growing. Angels, if there are angels, is there only one number of population, or do they keep growing? I don't know. All right, now let's get down into this is getting more specific into the nature of that being, or that level, or that existence, so that I can figure out how to help that learner. I'm calling these learners. All right, impact. Can we have an impact on? Well, I can kick the rock. I can bat that. I can have an impact. Train an animal. Humans, yeah. I don't know if I can have any. Well, maybe we should be able to infect these. But okay, are these matter? Okay, another thing we could think. Well, are they just matter? Well, the rock is. These are. I'd say these are both. So we say, oh, that insect, he's made out of matter, but he can move around. He's got some kind of, maybe not mental ability, but he's got something that works down. So I'm going to put him both. Then we go to animals, definitely both, because they seem to think or process this information. Human, yeah, we got him down here. Aliens, I don't know. I guess if as you define them, they'd have to be both. The angels, no, we're going to put them back up here under mind only. Okay, gods, I guess we put here. Other, I don't know. But I left that because I'm not sure what might come up later. Okay, so you say, well, what did we accomplish here? An analysis of existing things, beings, human beings, other beings, We just in order to try to understand how this process of teaching affects the learner, and the learner learns, and I guess would feed back to me. That's all this process is ontology, is to study being and existence. And that, because as maybe one of the next lectures will be on the nature of the learner, which we'll get more specifically probably into that class right there. Okay, that's enough for today, and thank you very much for listening, and see you soon. Bye.